have to start their first day on the job by doing the right things. And what are the right things? Work with the different policies of the JCF, ensure that you're in adherence with them, go there, do your work, be fair and just to people, right? And just ensure that at the end of the day you're able to sleep when you go home. That's important.
Superintendent of Police Rochelle McGibbon Scott. As you navigate your week, speak a word of encouragement into the life of a youngster. You may never know what that word can do for them. That's it from me this week. I'm Andre Palmer. Thanks for listening.
Do not use your cell phone while driving, please. That call or text can wait. Do you really have to stream that video while driving? It's not worth your life, nor that of other road users. Stay alert, stay off your phone, and arrive alive.
JIS Radio presents Roundabout JA, a 5-minute feature on local news, ideas, people, places, and things. Roundabout JA.
Court Administration Division, CAD, prepares to launch Traffic Ticket Public Day initiative on March 4. Stay tuned for the details. I'm Monique Whitfield. Let's go Roundabout JA.
Government pensioners paid by the Accountant General's Department, our mobile life certificate drive is coming to your parish. Saturday, February 28th, Greater Portmore Parish Library. Monday, March 2, Morant Villas in St. Thomas and St. James Methodist Church in Clarendon. Tuesday, March 3, Westmoreland Parish Library. Wednesday, March 4, St. Mary Parish Library and Portland Parish Library. On Thursday, March 5, St. Matthew's Anglican Church in St. Elizabeth. Friday, March 6, St. Anne Parish Library and Trelawney Parish Library. Saturday, March 7, St. Catherine Parish Library in Spanish Town. Monday, March 9, Hanover Parish Library. AGD drop boxes at parish libraries in St. James, Portland, Hanover, Westmoreland, and Manchester are also available for easy life certificate submissions. See you there!
The Court Administration Division, CAD, is set to launch its Traffic Ticket Public Day initiative on March 4 at the St. Catherine Parish Court. With a backlog of approximately 200,000 tickets in the parish, the initiative aims to provide motorists with a streamlined and convenient process for resolving outstanding tickets. Director of Client Services, Communications and Information at the CAD, Kadish Jarrett Fletcher, explains who should be attending the Traffic Ticket Public Day.
The Traffic Ticket Public Day that we are having and hosting at the St. Catherine Parish Court is specific for motorists who would have received traffic tickets in the parish, did not pay at the tax collectorate, and also did not attend court on the date that is listed on the tickets. We want to give our motorists the opportunity to have these matters brought before the court in a hassle-free way. We want them to not have to suffer the inconvenience of having a warrant issued and executed on them.
Court operations will begin at 9 a.m. and continue into night court, concluding at 9 p.m. to ensure that the maximum number of persons can be served. So, if you have already registered for the Traffic Ticket Public Day, what exactly will you need?
Persons need to bring their driver's license. They need to bring the copies of the tickets if they have them, or if they don't have them, they can get copies from trafficticketlookup.gov. They can download and print those and take it with them. Once you have your ID and that, we should be able to treat with you on the day. Note, however, though, we are not accepting walk-ins on March 4.
The initiative is expected to be replicated in other parishes with high volumes of outstanding matters. Parking will be available at the St. Jago Cathedral parking lot, the St. Jago High School Throwers Field, located opposite the school, and at King Street. This is paid parking operated by the Municipal Corporation. Parking will also be available at the St. Catherine Parish Court Library between 8:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. A key pillar of Vision 2030 is the creation of a healthy and stable population. The government is aiming to improve access to quality health care, reduce the burden of disease, and promote healthier lifestyles. Remember, you have a part to play in making this a reality. For full access to the Vision 2030 National Development Plan, visit vision2030.gov.jm or call the Planning Institute of Jamaica at 876-960-9339.
St. Catherine, big news. On Wednesday, March 4, the St. Catherine Parish Court will host a traffic ticket public day. Got a ticket and missed your court date? This is your chance to clear them in an orderly, hassle-free way. But listen up, to be registered for hearing on March 4, you must register by February 20, 2026. Register by visiting the help desk at the parish court or sending a WhatsApp to 876-453-5060 or by emailing traffictickets@jamaicajudiciary.gov.jm. Remember, your matter will be handled in accordance with the law. See you there.
That's it for today's program. Join us next time when we highlight happenings roundabout JA. Until then, I'm Monique Whitfield with studio engineer Joel Samuels. Walk with it.
A production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Brown for Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time on Called Out Gospel Radio, COGR. Tune in and be informed, whether it's matters of buying and selling, subdivision of land, writing and probing will and testament, acquiring or modifying land titles, and much more. That's Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Called Out Gospel Radio.
If you have received a notification that your cargo is ready for pickup at Kingston Wharves Limited KWL, please do so immediately. Hurricane relief cargo has added to the regular seasonal shipments, impacting volume and capacity. We are open weekdays and every Saturday 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Timely cargo collection by customers is essential. Contact us at 876-618-1068 for more information.
In case of an earthquake and the place that's shaking, drop, cover, and hold on. Drop, cover, and hold on. In case of an earthquake,
there's a few tips that can keep you from harm. In case of an earthquake, you gotta stay calm. Move away from doors, windows, and things that can fall. Try not to use steps or elevators at all.
drop, protect your head and your face. Don't go running all over the place. Cover, under a bed or a table, against a wall that's firm and stable.
Hold on,
you must hold on, don't panic, stay calm.
Don't move until the shaking stops.
Here it is.
Drop, cover, and hold on.
Drop, cover, and hold on. In case of an earthquake.
Drop, cover, and hold on.
Learn how to protect yourself during an earthquake. Log on to weready.org. That's weready.org for more information.
Davis Cowan, and you're listening to Called Out Gospel Radio in Oteria, St. Anne, Jamaica. COGR, fulfilling God's purpose, impacting lives.
The time by Called Out Gospel Radio is 7:30. Time for Land Matters.
Join attorney at law Gloria Brown for Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time on Called Out Gospel Radio, COGR. Tune in and be informed, whether it's matters of buying and selling, subdivision of land, writing and probing will and testament, acquiring or modifying land titles, and much more. That's Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Called Out Gospel Radio. Don't miss it.
The time is now 7:31. Of course, Land Matters is brought to you by the Jamaica Public Service Company, powering what happens. Good evening, Attorney Brown. How are you? Good to have you.
I'm good. Thank you so much. Good evening, and thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. You can go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, listeners. Welcome again to Land Matters, aired every Tuesday at 7:30 on Called Out Gospel Radio. And we look forward to interacting with you and to educate you, inform you, and answer any question you may have in relation to land ownership. Please send your questions to 876-387-3183 preferably via WhatsApp. So please, any question, 876-387-3183. You may also send your questions to 876-868-5109 or 876-535-8186. And I want to look at some questions that have come to me. Good afternoon, Ms. Brown. Both my grandparents died leaving land. They sold portions to some persons before they died. The grandchildren now occupy the lands. How can I get these persons on the tax roll? I wish that more Jamaicans would be concerned about getting titles than getting placed on the tax roll. Because being on the tax roll, it does not give you security. What you need to do is to get a title, because when you get a title, you will automatically get onto the tax roll. So what I want you to advise these persons who bought properties from your grandparents, advise each of them to go and survey their little portion that they bought and then make application for title. When they have got title, then they'll be able to pay their own taxes, because it's partially impossible to get them to pay their own taxes without you sorting out their title situation, because it's very difficult to get on the tax roll without a title. So that's very important. A friend bought a house and a relative of his has given a gift towards the deposit of purchasing the property. 4 years went by and the relative is now saying it was a loan and not a gift, even though the relative had signed a letter stating this as a gift. Can this be rectified in the courts? Yes, and this is a matter for the courts, unfortunately. I hope both of them can come to an agreement, because it might be easier to pay back the person, depending on how much the person had given, than to pay their lawyers to go to court. So it's important to look and see how much money is being spoken of and then determine how best to act. Because sometimes court is not the best, it should never be the first option, because it's expensive, and if it's a Supreme Court matter, we are getting dates now like 2027, 2028 are the dates we are getting now. So you might find that this might take some time. If the amount is a small amount and you want to go to court and it's less than, I think, like 1.5 million or less, then it might be heard in the resident magistrate. We call them the parish court now, in the parish that you are in. But the amount will be important to determine how best to go forward, because it might just be best to pay the person back. And I'm glad you have it in writing, and it's very important for us to have matters in writing. As a country, as a people, we are very informal. We do a lot of word of mouth transactions, and we know that sometimes situations go south. So the best of relationships sometimes run into trouble, and then things change. I speak in particular, I see situations where, for example, persons have got NHT benefits, and so my aunt has a house already, so she's not going to use her NHT benefits, so she has given it to me. Her name is on the title with me. She has not contributed anything. I've paid the mortgage over the years, and now aunt is claiming a portion of the property. So these are things that we need to be aware of and need to know how we are going to be very formal in how we manage our affairs. Put things in writing. Lawyers, in situations like that, a lawyer should do what we call a declaration of trust to protect the interest of the person who owns the property. Because a lot of times when relationships break down, then agreements change. So always put things in writing, even if it's your mother, your husband, your wife, your children, put it in writing, because things and times can change and you can run into problems in terms of what the agreement was. But this person is saying that there's a signed letter to say it is a gift, so the court might have to decide on that. So we can see some of the challenges that we run into sometimes. This person wants to know how they go about administering an estate. You administer an estate, first of all, when a person dies without a will. So I suspect you are saying that someone has died without a will. The law states who are the persons who should administer, and the format is spouse first. If no spouse, then children or child. If no child or children, then it will be parents. Next in line, brothers and sisters of the full blood, same mother and father. Then half brothers and sisters. If none of those, then grandparents. then uncles and aunts of the full blood, your mother and father, full brothers and sisters, then the uncles and aunts of the half blood. So if you have a spouse, then nobody else is to apply unless the spouse gives permission. If no spouse, the children will have to apply. Nobody else will benefit. And that's how the law states. And this is written in a law called the Intestates, Estates and Property Charges Act. That's the law that determines what is to happen to an estate when a person dies without a will. And you know that I'm always preaching and encouraging my listeners to make their wills. It's important to have a will. It's important to have a will because we avoid a lot of confusion. And oh, what needless pains we bear just because we have not put things in place in relation to wills. Want to look at another question? Mother left the house with no will. I've been occupying the house for over 15 years. Only her name is on the title. I'm not sure what you mean by occupying the property for over 15 years, because sometimes persons tell me they have been occupying the property and they really mean that they have been living there with their parents. The occupation will only start after your mother has died. So if you are living there with your mother all this time as a child, you can't come and say, hey, I've been there for 15 years. The time starts counting when your mother after your mother dies. That's when you start counting your time. So you might have to administer your mother's estate if 12 years have not passed. If 12 years have passed, then you can do the adverse possession. Otherwise, you are going to have to administer. And in a situation like this, when you administer the estate, then what is going to happen is that the property is going to go to your mother's spouse. If there's a spouse, half for the spouse and half for all the children. If there's no spouse, it's going to go to you and all your mother's other children. If you are the only child and there's no spouse, then you will benefit, you alone. So I would need to get more information on that. And as I said, you apply for letters of administration, or you administer an estate when the person dies without a will. And we want to encourage persons to make wills, because when you make a will, there's certainty who is to get what, no confusion when parents make wills, or relatives or siblings, or when a person makes a will. That's one thing about a will. It's certainty. You know who is to get what. And the will is not just to say who is to get what. There are some other important things about a will. There's also the important part of who is to be the executor. And the executors are the persons who are going to ensure that everything that the testator, the person who died, everything the testator requested, that those bequests are carried out. So the testator said, I want to be buried at so and so, or I want to be cremated, or I want my body to be given to science, which is why it's important to see the will after the person has died, to see if there are any certain bequests. Because sometimes the testator might say, my funeral expenses to come from my insurance policy with such and such a company, or from particular account with such and such a financial institution. So it's important to see the will first. So it's not good to hide your will and let nobody know that there's a will. Somebody should always know that you have a will so they can look into it. Because I remember someone asked me this week a question that came in another space I was that what happens is after you have buried a person, you find the will and realize that the person had asked to be cremated. So you see the importance of, or that is bad, because at least you could exhume and cremate. But look at it, if the person wanted to be buried and you have cremated, what are you going to do? So it's good for persons to see the will before the funeral to know if there are any obligations. The person might say, I want to be buried at the family plot, and then you have decided that you're going to bury the person in one of those funeral, one of those cemeteries outside of Spanish Town or in your parish, when the person said they wanted to be buried in the churchyard or in the public cemetery or etc. So it's important to note that you must let somebody know about your will so that when you pass, they will know. So when I do wills for persons, I always do 4 or at least 4. I give the person 3 copies, I will keep 1. And I will say to them, say to your relatives, if anything should happen to me, you need to contact Gloria Brown. This is her card. This is her information. I see persons time and time again calling me. You made a will for my father. You made a will for my mother or my grandmother. The person has passed, and now we want to probate. But when we talk about probate, we mean that you apply to the court for permission for the executor to start sharing, because you can't start to distribute the assets unless there are assets that will go to waste. But you can't start saying this one, the house is yours, that is that, that is that, if you have not got this order from the court called a probate, which gives the executor permission to share. So when a client came into my office this morning and I had applied for letters of administration in her relative's estate because the person died without a will, and she's the person who is the administrator of the estate. So I had to say to her, know that I've given you this paper called letters of administration or grant of administration. You are to take it to NHT so they can give you the 8 years or 7 years of back money that they kept back for this person. Take it to the bank and get the person's money. Take it to the tax office and get the title for the person's vehicle transferred to your name. This is go to the bank and get whatever money. Go to the insurance company. This is a piece of paper called a probate when there's a will, or a grant of administration when there is no will. That gives the person who has got the grant permission to step in the shoes of the dead person and to be able to do whatever the person who died could do. That's the power of the grant of probate or the power of the grant of administration. But you can't step in the shoes of the dead person until you have got this grant from the court. You're listening to Land Matters, which is aired on Call Out Gospel Radio every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. This program aims to educate and to inform, which is also the aim of this radio station, Call Out Gospel Radio, and the station is located in Ocho Rios, and the aim of the station is to impact the lives of others positively. So I want each one to tell someone about the program, tell someone about this station, so that they can get the education that the station is offering. And remember, you can listen on via the radio stream on the app in the Google Play Store or on the YouTube channel, Call Out Gospel Radio, impacting the lives of Jamaicans positively. So remember, you can send your questions, your comments to 876-387-3183. 876-387-3183. And my name is Gloria Brown. I'm an attorney. I have an office in Ocho Rios in the Jamaica National Building, Shop 6. That's just up the steps on your left, Shop 6. That's in Ocho Rios. And also in Kingston, Winchester Business Center, 15 Hope Road. And you can always call my office or give me a call on my cell phone or send me a WhatsApp message at 876-387-3183. 876-387-3183. And we want you to inform, to help to educate persons. I say to persons that the aim of programs like this is to create village lawyers, and that's not a bad word. The aim is to educate persons so persons can have this knowledge. They have this education where they can be the village lawyers. When they see things going wrong, when they see their neighbors making mistakes, they can say to them, no, that is not how that is done. That is not how this is to be done. Let us try to educate persons, because when you have this kind of knowledge, it is invaluable. Very, very important. So I was saying earlier that in making the will, it's not just to write and to say who is to get what. It's also important in choosing who is to guard what and who is to guard who. So you have young children. In the will, you can appoint guardians for these young children. You can appoint trustees who will ensure that the children are protected, are taken care of, that they get money from the estate to go to school, to pay for university. Because you can put in the will that the children are to get the estate, the benefits from the estate in full when they are maybe 25, whatever the age you think they will have the capacity to manage your assets. But in the interim, you need to appoint people who are responsible when you have minor children, to take care of them and to take care of your assets. And note, if you don't make a will and you have children who are under 18, minor beneficiaries who are minors, then the Administrator General's Department will step in. That department will step in and will ensure that the minors are protected. But note, the Administrator General's Department, they are not free. They want a 6% administration fee plus a 6% legal fee. So I was saying to one of the attorneys in that department that if the estate is massive and expensive, sometimes it might suit the persons to just wait until the children reach 18. If they are 16 and 17, you might as well wait because that's a lot of money to pay out from an estate, especially when the estate has a lot. It's a very valuable estate. That's something that you need to look into and determine. But you don't have to have that problem because you should make wills. If you have young children, you need to make wills to protect them because you need somebody who is going to be in charge, who is going to look after them, who is going to make sure that all is well. That is extremely important. Extremely important. And too many of our people are not making wills. Too many of our Jamaicans are saying that if they make wills, they are going to die early. Please let us get rid of that kind of backward mindset. This is now 2026. Okay, our forebears could say that in the 1950s and 60s, but these are modern days. Let us not leave confusion behind because a lot of the challenges that we leave behind, a lot of the conflict that we have is because persons have not taken time out to sort out their titles, their estates. And believe me, land matters. Land matters to Jamaicans, and Jamaicans take this land thing seriously. I'm not sure if it's because when we left Africa, we left with nothing. And when slavery was abolished and we were turned off the plantation like cattle, we had nothing because a lot of those planters, thought that treated black persons like animals. I'm from Steigerville, which is the first free village in the Caribbean, and I would hear my father talk about dumb animals, and I think it's something that coming out of slavery because as far as a lot of these Europeans who came who enslaved our ancestors, many of whom most of whom were traffickers. You realize that Columbus was one of the greatest traffickers. A lot of those persons who went to the ship, they were traffickers, and now we're acting as if it is new. But they trafficked our people from Africa, trafficked the Arawaks around the Caribbean, and when they let us off, they saw us as animals, which is why, as I said, my father would talk about dumb animals because as far as the planters were concerned, you had talking animals, which were the black people, and dumb animals. So when we were let off the plantation like animals, no provision was made for land ownership for all these thousands of people who were let off the sugar plantation. No provision was made for them to get land. And we see what is happening today. We see the squatting problem. It's not new. It started from plantation days. Persons had to run away into the hills and valleys from slavery. And that time the Europeans had already shared up the land, especially the plains. For Europeans who were given these as incentives. They were given incentives to say, if you go to Jamaica, then I will give you land. And many of them came, they were given what was not theirs. And then they have gone around to teach us in school that Columbus discovered Jamaica. You discovered somewhere that was lost. Jamaica was not lost. Okay, he came as a pirate. So these are some of the challenges. These are some of the of what is really dogging the feet of our people, why we have so much conflict in relation to land, because it's one of the resources that no more is being made. So we have this conflict and this constant tension with our people as we strive to see who is to get what, who is to get the best. And I encourage my listeners to protect the land that is given to you by your forefathers, many of whom toiled really hard, toiled long and hard to be able to own a piece of the rock. And sometimes I get a little bit discouraged when I see how persons just walk away and leave what the forefathers struggled to get. Walk away, go to foreign, work in 2, 3, 4 jobs when they have value, they have wealth here that they could even sell to make life a little easier abroad. A text message. My dad purchased a piece of property about 35 years ago. It was surveyed. I went to the surveyor for the documents. He has done nothing except, my father has done nothing except paying taxes. Now he's living with me. How can his children go about getting a title? Well, you say you have the survey, but dad has done nothing. So you can use the survey. That's the base. That's where you're going to start with. Start with the survey diagram, and let's start looking about the title for you. So you can contact us in our office, and we'll gladly help you to get a title and send you the information. You're going to need 2 persons who have known the land for 30 years. And when we say they have known the land for 30 years, they don't have to have known it from long before your father bought it. maybe from the time they knew it, your father was the owner. So we want people who are 50 years and over. And these people must not sign any document, must write up anything because the lawyer will prepare what the persons are to sign. Sometimes persons come with letters from JP. You don't need those. You just need name, age, address, occupation of two persons who have known the land for 30 years who will vouch for you in order for you to be able to make this application for title. And the persons must not live abroad. They have to live in Jamaica. They don't have to live in the community. The property could be in St. Mary and they live in Kingston. But the important thing is that they would have known the land for over 30 years. And also, you're going to need to show some evidence that daddy owns the land. Maybe he has an old receipt that he bought it when he got it, or an old will, old tax papers, old light bill. Anything that daddy has to show that he's the owner would help. And the titles office is also asking these days for photographs of the property. So you might say that we have planted fruit trees, they want to see pictures of that. We have a house on it, they want to see pictures of that. It is fenced. So I usually ask the clients for between 5 to 7 photographs, and preferably in color, to show the improvements that have been made to the property. And then your father can also decide that he wants the title to come out in the names of all the children. Daddy's name does not have to go on the title. And if daddy can't write, he can make an X to show and sign in front of a JP. But all the documents will be prepared by the lawyer. And the lawyer will submit those documents to daddy for signing, plus the 2 declarants. And if the children are going to go on the title, then they will also have to sign consents. We call them consents of nominee. So if daddy is deciding that the children must go on the title, he doesn't want his name on it, or he wants his name on it and the names of the children will have to consent as well. And in situations like that, I usually encourage the parents, unless they are very, very, old and very insistent that they don't want to go on it, I encourage the parents to go on the title, take a life interest, so they have some vested interest in the property and nobody can throw them off. So it is still important for them to be on. I think it's important. It gives you a sense of ownership right as long as you're alive. And that is crucial in terms of giving you this kind of confidence to know that, hey, this is mine. This is mine. I own it. That can be very, very, that can give you some amount of protection as well. Because sometimes children change and you run into problems. Let's just put it like that. Sometimes children change and give you problems when you put their names on title. And I say this to say that to say this as well, that if you have 10 children and you want the 10 of them to benefit from the property, don't just put one. If you're going to put one at this time, put on it that one has a 1/10 and you keep 9/10. Don't feel that every time you put on a child on the title, the child has to be there with you equally. They don't have to be joint tenants. You can be tenants in common where that child has 1/10 and you have 9/10, or that child has 1/50 and you have 49/50. Use up your fractions when it comes to land ownership. Use that a little bit more and protect. Give yourself the option as tenants in common where you can will your share. Because too many times I've seen persons come into the office to say that they put one child on the title and now they want to put the others, and that child is not agreeing. I will be able to put on the others as long as the title is free and there's no mortgage on it. I can put on the other children. But I can't touch the half share for that child who is on it already. And immediately that child will become a tenant in common, so that child won't get the parents' other half. But I can't touch the share. Suppose it's the mother, father, and a child on it, and the mother and father want to add other children. That's a little better because that child would only have a 1/3. So I can let the mother and father transfer their share to the other children, to themselves and the other children. And the child who is on it already will only have 1/3. So be very, very careful, because sometimes our children get a little bit, a little bit entitled. Let me use that word. A little bit entitled, and feel that because their name's on the title, then nobody else should come nearby. And I've seen so much injustice when it comes to land matters that I always want to protect my clients in terms of information. My name is so and so, a young farmer trying to make ends meet, and I was informed of leasing land to expand my passion for farming. I'm seeking advice on the same, as to get somewhere in Clarendon to do this. Minister Oliver has been posting the flyer, and I saw it so many times, just getting the chance to reach out. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, Latoya, what this is about in terms of the minister talking about leasing land and which minister it is, Minister Oliver. I'm not sure which Minister Oliver. So probably you need to look at the flyer to see if a name is there, but be very, very careful because sometimes things are not as they seem. And you have a lot of persons taking unsuspecting persons' money, so they lease the one piece of land to 10 different persons and walk away with the 10 deposits. So be careful, and you say you want land to lease, you probably should call a real estate agent to see if they know of any land being leased because there's a lot of idle land around. And sometimes it's only when they see you start looking after it that the owners come forward. So be very, very careful, and you could also reach out to the RADA in your area to see if they know of any land being leased, or just walk around the community and ask persons if they know of any. But if you give me more information at 876-387-3183, I might be able to investigate for you and see if I could put you on to anybody who would be able to give you some guidance as to how you can go about getting. But I'm glad to see a young lady. Okay, you're going into farming because it can be lucrative. You can really suffer a lot of loss as well, but you can also benefit because crops come in quite fast. 6 weeks and you can be able to reap. So sometimes the hurricane might cause a lot of problems. Sometimes the drought, sometimes the worms. Okay, farming is really can be a tricky thing, but it can also be very, very rewarding. And I pray all the best for you. That all will go well and you'll really be able to succeed as a farmer. And remember to invest back in the business. Don't just when you make a little money, put back some in the business. Don't spend all of it to buy a nice car. Okay, put a little because you can become wealthy out of it. But we know it can be a challenge as well because our children, or it can be a challenge as well because our forefathers, many of us grew up on farms and we know our parents were just they were just eking out an existence. But thank God they were able to send us to school out of it and were able to educate us. And we were able to make something of the education they gave us. Let us remember that many people are still struggling out of because of the hurricane. Let us remember that not everybody is better off now. Many people are worse off than before the hurricane. So let us remember them. Let us try to be, to be our brother's keeper, to look out for others. You have been listening to Land Matters on Call Gospel Radio. I thank you so much for joining me this evening on Land Matters on Call Gospel Radio. My name is Gloria Brown, and I look forward to sharing again with you next week, same time on this same station. Have a good evening, all.
Show us, please show us, show us how to care for our brother. Show us how to love our neighbor like a candle. Shine your love to let our children know that we care. Oh Lord, please hear our cry. We need you now, Lord.
Attorney at Law Gloria Brown for Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time on Called Out Gospel Radio, COGR. Tune in and be informed whether it's matters of buying and selling, subdivision of land, writing and probing will and testaments, acquiring or modifying land titles, and much more. That's Land Matters every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Called Out Gospel Radio. Don't miss it.
So powerful and informative. That's Land Matters with attorney Gloria Brown. And of course, Land Matters is brought to you by Jamaica Public Service Company, powering what matters. This is Called Out Gospel Radio. The time is 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. Good evening.
This is Carlene Davis Cowan, and you're listening to Called Out Gospel Radio in Oteria, St. Anne, Jamaica. COGR, fulfilling God's purpose, impacting lives.